Hi everybody, this is John back with another model inbox review. The aircraft we're looking at probably needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever, but it's the model that I'll be doing the inbox review on. And there's a little bit of interesting history about the particular subject that the model company have actually portrayed. But there's a bit of interesting imagery going on here. This is obviously a GR Mark 1 Harrier, but it's flying over the Mörner Dam in Germany, so it's obviously one of the German-based Harriers. I think these were based in Gütersloh during the 1970s as part of the quick reaction force, and they would have been employed in the anti-tank role to take out armoured columns should World War III have occurred. And the Harrier would have been extremely good at doing that. The interesting thing is, the model that I'm actually doing an inbox review on today is the early tooling Airfix 1/72nd scale GR Mark 1 Harrier. And I've actually got one of the first release boxings when they appeared in the Type 3 boxings, the famous red stripe boxings. But I want to talk about the particular aircraft that Airfix have actually decided to model. This looks like any old Harrier jump jet rolling out of a hangar, doesn't it? But it's in actual fact the very, very first Hawker Siddeley Harrier production jet that was produced by Hawker Siddeley for the RAF. And the aircraft was finished at first in a sort of a weird titanium green sort of, it was like a metallic green, light green colour. And unfortunately you can't see it in its full glory because the picture's in black and white, but it also had its evaluation avionic probe on the front of the nose cone there. And this was because the Harrier was still undergoing acceptance trials by the RAF at this particular time. Now this aircraft was built in 1967 and it was the very first Harrier jump jet to come off the production line from Hawker Siddeley for the Royal Air Force. It was the very first production Harrier ever made, and Airfix decided to build this one. The aircraft there's a colour photograph of it here when the aircraft was still in evaluation trials at RAF Wittering, and it's lost its avionics probe on the front of the nose cone, and it has adopted some of its camouflage pattern, but not all of it. And it's still in that sort of titanic metallic green colour that you can see. A lot of it is still in that colour. And I just thought this is an interesting image because any of you guys out there who fancy building a Harrier GR Mark 1 but fancy building XV738, which was actually the very first one, this is a fantastic reference photograph for you to build something really unusual in a Harrier jump jet. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Also, the aircraft was converted in 1979, I believe, into a GR Mark 3, and there she is again, XV738. This is the same airframe. This is the very first Harrier jump jet production model built by Hawker Siddeley, and there she is in her wraparound camouflage scheme with the GR3 laser designator and the nose cone. Upgraded avionics. The early production GR1s didn't have this, but the later production GR1s certainly did. There's quite a lot of avionics that are on this particular image that are not in the Airfix kit, which is quite interesting. There's also a massive aerial where this light bulb unit is. Actually no, the aerial is slightly forward of there. It's sort of more towards a third into this main wing spar box. And it's a massive aerial that goes up like this in a thing. You'll see it in the parts in a minute, which is quite interesting. I thought that was quite interesting. Anyway, the model we're doing an inbox review on is this one, and this is the exact boxing that I've got, the Type 3 red stripe box, and it was released in 1969. And you can see the fact that there's no avionics in the front of the fin. Some of the vents are missing on this rear section here. The vents are in the front section, and the aircraft, it is a GR1. It's exactly what it is. Exactly what it says on the box. And it was originally released in 1969. The box itself is quite small, as you'll see in Series 2, and it's quite a full packed plastic You know, the box contains quite a lot of plastic for a Series 2 kit. There's quite a lot of parts to this particular model, which is quite nice to see. Airfix released the Type 4 header, Type 4 boxing rather, in two different types. The 72 release, which normally didn't start coming in. This was like an experimental idea into what the box should be looking like. This was released in 1972, and the Type 4s didn't really come into it until 1973. So this is an idea of what the early Type 4s looked like before the general release of the box types came out. That was 1972, same image on the front. Then in 1973, the Type 4 boxing was originally formulated on, and this is what it looked like. It was, you know, yeah, it was exactly like this. Same artwork on the front of the box as the Type 3. Everything was exactly the same, but you had a proper logo here instead of the scroll logo. This wasn't the typical red, white, and blue logo colours, because they were more messing about with different colour logos in the Type 4s when they were first released, and that was 1973. Then you go into 1975, and this was the first time when I think this was the Type 4D boxing came out, and this is when you had your typical red, white, and black Airfix circular global logo, which was quite nice. The aircraft is still called a Harrier, 1/72nd scale, but it's written in French as well underneath there. Exactly the same box, same kit, everything exactly the same. That's 1975. Then in 1978, you went into the Type 5, which is what I call the planetoid label boxings. This is where the label logo of Airfix was the same colour as black, red and white, but it was more of a planetoid shape, you know, oblong if you like, or rather oval if you like. It wasn't, well, not oblong, it was oval. It wasn't a plain sphere. But the format of the box changed. You had no boxing on the front here. This has definitely been photoshopped in some early form of Photoshop, because in the original release these blasts underneath the aircraft were not as apparent as they are here, and the blast shouldn't be coming out of anywhere other than the jet nozzles, so I don't know what's going on here, but it wasn't like that on the original kit. Anyway, that's the 1978 Type 5 release. Then in 1979, St Michael Model Maker from Marks and Spencer's got hold of 3 Airfix kits. They're all Series 2 kits. They were the Mikoyan Goyevich MiG-21, I think it's a MiG-21C, the Saab J-35 Draken, and the GR Mark 1 Harrier. And they were just simply called History of Aviation Modern Jets. I think they did a World War II set as well, and these kits, they're quite collectible now. If you can get a hold of one, or if you have one, they're quite collectible and quite worth keeping a hold of. I think they appreciate in value quite nicely. So that's 1979. Then in 1982, Airfix revamped the mould. It's exactly the same kit inside, but they upgraded the mould to build the aircraft into a GR Mark III. And it's a shame that they didn't keep with XV738, because if they had done, it would have been fantastic. But you could always make XV738 by buying a series, a GR1 release, and using the XV738 decal from that kit to modernise XV738 as a GR3. But this was, I think this was Mattel or Palatoy or someone. I can't remember what company owned it. I think it was something to do with I can't remember what company owned it now, but it's in my Airfix company overview. I can't remember. It doesn't come to mind who owned the company, but I think Palatoy was responsible for the marketing in the UK of Airfix kits at that time, but it was owned by a company in America. It will come to me. They were a food company. Interesting. Also, the other thing that's interesting is that the modeler has built this kit, and he's built these ordnance stations, these ordnance Matra Magic pods, and painted them white. They would never have been white in a million years. Matra Magic pods were either green, NATO green, or they were silver, aluminium usually. with the rocket still inside, which is quite nice. And the GR3 obviously had a little pitot tube that stuck out the top of the laser designator instead of out the front of the nose cone. Other interesting features, so you've got the avionics little section there, and I think there were a couple of different vents here, which I think were different to the GR1. They might not have been, I can't remember actually, I can't remember what the GR1 had there. But we'll see them in a minute, definitely see them in a minute. Anyway, let's have a look at the kit itself. We'll leave you a nice image. Oh, sorry, no, I need to mention the fact the new tool. Before we go into the kit itself, 2013 was an update for Hornby Hobbies Limited with Airfix, in that they updated the entire Harrier range. They didn't just do the AV8A and the GR Mark 1, they also built GR Mark 3, and these moulds were to fall in line with the later generation Harrier 2s, AV8Bs, and the Harrier GR Mark 5, 7 and 9s. And the T10, of course, which is a two-seat variant. It's a shame they didn't build a T Mark 4 to go with these, but there is a company called Humbrol who built a T Mark 4, and it was also available in their Bobcat range. And it's a very basic kit, but it's all right. It wasn't too bad, you know, but it is a very basic kit. I think it only had about 19 parts or something. Anyway, this was the new toolkit which was released from Airfix in 2013. Leave you with a nice image there. This is XV807, it's not 738. And I think she's operating in RAF Wittering. And this is a Harrier GR Mark 3 in early non-wrap round camouflage. And one of the things I also want to point out before we go into the boxing review on the kit itself is about the Harrier's jet nozzles, because a lot of people don't realise how the Pegasus turbofan works. The Rolls-Royce Pegasus turbofan, it was a vectored thrust turbofan, was a turbofan that relied on hot gases coming out the back jet nozzles and cool gases coming out the front jet nozzles. So when you're painting your Harrier Jump Jet's jet nozzles, the correct procedure is to paint the forward jet nozzles in camouflage pattern colour. And you can see clear as daylight that these nozzles on the front are the same colour as this, they're green. But the nozzle at the back ejected incredibly hot gases direct from the combustion chamber of the turbofan engine, and these nozzles were generally burnt iron. A lot of people paint them gunmetal, but they should really have quite a lot of copper in them to reenact a burnt sort of iron look about them. And if you do that, you'll transform your Harrier model into a very accurate kit indeed. Anyway, what we'll do now, we'll just pan the camera down so we can look at this really nice Airfix offering in the Type 3 red stripe boxing, and we'll go through this kit. First of all, the box is actually quite small. There's my hand. It's actually similar size to my hand, but it's quite a narrow box. The red stripe package in there with a long scroll Airfix logo. And on the side of the boxes in the early days, especially in the 70s, you used to have adverts of the other kits that Airfix produced. Now the interesting thing about it is the TBM3 Avenger was originally a Series 2 kit, but it was updated in the 80s to a Series 3 kit. The Bronco was always a Series 2 kit, but the Avenger was one of the biggest Series 2 models Airfix released. You've got a Bronco, an OV10A Bronco on the back, and on this side you've got a Sky Raider and an Aichi D3A1 Val. Now I've got or built all of these. There's going to be an inbox review on the Avenger coming soon as well, so you look out for that one. It'll be quite interesting. Now then, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take these bits out of here, and I'm going to just plonk all of this into the lid so that I can take all of these parts out. Is that a part? No, it's a tab. Yes, it's a part. I've realised what it is. So I'm going to take all these parts out and show you them, and then put them back in the lid, no problem whatsoever. The instructions. In the early instructions, Type 3, this was the first time that Airfix went from what I would call the in-depth text instructions to the exploded view instructions. And the model builds up in 4 sections, as you see, but the 4th section is really a paint and colour and decal guide. So the model build is in 3 sections. And in the first section, these were still quite complicated instructions in terms of how much was going on in each stage, but they were a lot easier to follow. And one of the things you notice about this particular kit is that you have link bars inside to join all the jet nozzles together. So when you turn one jet nozzle, all 4 of them should move at the same time. The other thing is that the turbofan at the front of the Pegasus engine there had a shaft on it that went to a retainer, so this turbofan could be moved by poking something inside the air intakes and turning it round, which was a sort of a nice added sort of bonus. I quite liked the fact that you could do that with the early Airfix GR1. The interior is a bit basic, but basically with section 1 you're putting all of the gubbins for the turbofan engine inside the airframe, and the pilot and the pilot and the seat goes inside the airframe, and then you're marrying everything up with the 2 what I call elephant lug air intakes. They go on the front as well. And in the Harrier, Airfix Harrier, the air intakes are in the semi-open position. They're not open and they're not closed. Section 2, you're basically building the airframe and the Aiden cannon pods, and you're putting the undercarriage into place. The undercarriage on the Harrier was a bicycle undercarriage, and it had 2 outriggers on the tips of the wings. These weren't really to carry the weight of the aircraft, they were more to just stabilise the aeroplane on the ground during turn-in manoeuvres, to stop the wingtips heeling over and hitting the ground. And everything is there. You've even got the pylons, they all going into this position as well. And you've got alternative parts. You can see there's part 43 and 45 and 42 and 44, the alternative parts for the outriggers to be either lowered or raised. And the undercarriage, the main undercarriage, you either just have the doors in the open position or closed. It's quite easy, general, usual way and fashion that you do it. Section 3 is basically the ordnance fit, which is quite comprehensive on this kit. There's quite a lot of different options: large, small bombs, drop tanks, and Matra rocket pods. Very nice indeed. So anyway, that's the build. Quite easy to follow. The paint plan on the bottom is really easy to follow. Light grey underneath, dark sea grey and matte 30 green on the top. A couple of other colours there which aren't listed, but matte black. Telling you to paint the jet nozzles matte black. You shouldn't really be painting them in the fashion I've explained before. And then on the front of I forgot to mention, you've got the Airfix logo and the designation for the kit, some Gumpf history and general instructions, and the key codes. Usual special instructions, gives you the information there as well. And then the decals, and these are quite incredible decals, because these are decals for XV738. There we go. This is the first production Harrier ever built by Hawker Siddeley for the RAF. The decals are pretty dire and they are very, very yellowed, but I'm going to try a trick that Martin Lamont I first saw from a video on Martin Lamont when he built his Wellington. I'm going to put them in the window for a couple of weeks and see if they can blanch that yellow backing, get rid of some of that yellow sort of finish. It's a shame actually, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put them in the window to try and blanch them if I can. Not looking easy to do that, but I'm going to try and do that. Can't get them in the window to stay. Oh yeah, there they go. There we go. A bit like that, that's okay. Right then, I'm going to show you the sprues first. So 4 sprues. I'm not going to go pedantic through the parts because this kit has been on the market quite a long time, but I just want to show you that this is an early release, so the parts are going to be pretty crisp, and they are pretty crisp. There's not much flash on those whatsoever, is there? You know, this kit could have been one of the first released. You know, could have been, couldn't it? The panel lines, I want to talk a little bit about the panel lines because yeah, they are raised, but they're not that bad. They're not particularly pronounced, and I don't think you're even going to need to file those down. except for you guys who like to file things flat and rescribe. I know there's quite a few of you out there that like to do that type of thing. There's a little bit of flash on that air brake, but not too much. Again, the panel lines on that tail plane, not really an issue. Yeah, seems alright. Undercarriage, that's the nose wheel, quite nice. Outriggers look okay, don't they? I have checked this kit. There are a number of loose parts, but I have checked it and it's all there. It's one of the Aiden cannon pods. The bombs are all quite the small bombs and large bombs match the rocket pods. Quite nice. This is the 4th sprue. This is what I was talking about with the air intakes on the Harrier. They are semi-recessed vents, and they're not going to come into. Oh yeah, they are. There we go. They're coming into focus now. You can see they're semi-recessed vents. Quite crisp part actually, but there is quite a big dent in that, which is a shame. Might have to put some filler in that and fill it out. This is the retainer pin, the retainer bit for the turbofan, and that's the linking part that links all the jet nozzles together. Oh, nice. There's 2 of those, I believe. I'm not going to go pedantic through all of these parts because some of them are just doubled up, but that's one of the drop tanks. Quite nice. This one with a fin on the back. Not bad. That's the ejection seat. Don't know what Mark Martin Baker that is, but I don't think it's 100% accurate. That's the other Aiden cannon pod. There's the turbofan. Quite nice. Seen that. You've seen this guy 100 times before, but I'll show him you because I love these guys. Airfix Pilot. Quite detailed. That particular pose for that pilot was used an awful lot in lots of different kits. Just show you one of these nozzles. This nozzle has got a black mark on it for some reason. It's not particularly well moulded either, and I might have to mess about with that a little bit. That's one of the forward nozzles. They need sanding down as well, these nozzles, by the way, because there's quite a ridge there, and that ridge shouldn't be there. I'm hoping to get it in focus for you, but this camera doesn't seem to want to do that. That's the main undercarriage oleo. You see that there? There we go. Easy as pie, isn't it? That's that. Sorry, the first nozzle was a rear nozzle. That's one of the front nozzles. Yep. It's the rear tail cone. You don't really need to see that. Little tiny door. You don't really need to see that. Cockpit canopy. I usually show these first, but the cockpit canopy on this kit is pretty run-of-the-mill Airfix, isn't it? It's not particularly good. It's not bad. It's pretty clear, but it's what it is. And then you've got the airframes, and I'm just going to show you these, one of them, because you don't need to see them both. But I want to show you basically the panel lines on this kit, because the panel lines are actually quite nice. There you can see them. They are raised, but they're quite finely applied to the airframe, and they will stand out, but they won't stand out amazingly well. And even if you guys, you want to spray your kit, I don't think you'll have to mess about with those lines too much. The head-up display cover there is quite nicely moulded. The interior is just the pilot and seat, as normal. Not much to write home about, but of course inside there you're going to have lots of moving parts, which is quite good, isn't it? Anyway, that's the kit. Leave you an image there. This is the colour of the Matcha Magic rocket packs. As I said before, they were usually silver. I like to do the rockets inside red. Some of them were red, a lot of them are black like they are there. Anyway, we'll just read this gun through so I can close this video down. The inbox review is on the Airfix Harrier GR Mark 1, original old tool, serial number 266, and the original release date was 1969. The kit was released in 1/72nd scale, and there are decals for a Hawker Harrier GR Mark 1 XV738, the first production Harrier to enter service with No. 1 Squadron at RAF Wittering in 1969. There are 95 parts on 4 grey plastic sprues and 1 clear part loose, totaling 96 parts in total. The dimensions of the kit are 7 inches long by 5 inches span and about 2 inches high. It should sit on its undercarriage. The options and costs, again, I've done all of the options and costs available, but only for the GR Mark 1, an early generation Harrier. I haven't even covered the GR3 because there are so many available, but what is available is quite interesting. In 144 scale, there's a company called Fox One Design that built a Harrier GR Mark 1. Looks quite nice, but it's not the best in this scale. No pricing is available on that. But Mark 1 models build a really nice boxing, individual boxings of all of the following: the Harrier GR1, the GR1A, the AV8A and AV8C, and the VA1 Matador, which is a Spanish naval Harrier. And these kits retail for about £15 to £18, and they are really, really nice. Crown also did a pretty poor model of the Harrier GR Mark 1 in this scale, and that's available for about £5 to £10. And be aware that Revell have released this kit in 144 scale, and it is the really poor Crown kit reboxed of the Harrier GR1, and this kit retails between £10 and £12. In 1/100th scale, there's a company called Takara in Japan who produce an AV8A and a Harrier GR1. No pricing's available for that, but I have seen it reboxed by Revell of the Harrier GR1 and AV8A, and this kit retails about £10 to £15, but I do stress it ain't very good. 1/72nd scale, there's a company called Aeroplast, and they build a Harrier GR Mark 1. This kit retails for about £3 to £8, but be aware that they also release a Harrier GR Mark 1 that's actually a Sea Harrier inside the box. So be aware of that. The old tool Airfix kit of the Harrier GR Mark 1 is about £4 to £20, and the new tool Airfix kit of the Harrier GR Mark 1 and AV8A is about £4 to £17. Ishii did an AV8A, no pricing's available on that. And the Harrier GR Mark 1 release from Frog retails for anything from £1 to £10. I've got a model of one of these in my stash, and I'm quite interested in building it. Limburg did a Harrier GR Mark 1 and an AV8A for about £5 to £10, and Matchbox also did a rather poor Harrier GR Mark 1 and an AV8A for about £7 to £15. ZTS Plastic also built an AV8A and a GR Mark 1 Harrier. No pricing's available on that either. Now, some of these kits have been reboxed. The Frog kit was reboxed by Arc Models, available for about £10 to £12. Kinetic also did the Frog kit, no pricings on that, but it's probably about the same. Donetsk Toy Institute reboxed the Frog kit for about £8 to £12, and Eastern Express reboxed the Frog kit as well for £8 to £12. Italeri reboxed the Ishii kit for the AV8A, and that kit retails between £17 and £18. And Mr. Craft reboxed the Aeroplast kit of the Harrier GR1 for about £8 to £9. Hasegawa also produced the Frog kit in the guise of the Harrier GR1 and an AV8A. They retail for anything from £2 to £15. And Novo released the Frog kit as well for about £5 to £10. Revell also re-released the really terrible Lindbergh kit. No pricing is available on that, but it does come up on eBay here and there quite often. In 48 scale, Tamiya do a really nice Harrier GR Mark 1, a VA Mark 1 Matador, and an AV8A. That kit releases for about £20, but there is a really nice kit coming out on the market very soon. It was promised for 2019, but as yet there's still no details as to where it is, and that's the GR Mark 1 Harrier from Kinetic. No pricing's available on that. Idea also reboxed the Tamiya kit, as did Kiddieland, of the Harrier GR Mark 1, the VA1 Matador and the Aviator-A, but no pricings on either of those two either. In 1/32, Monogram released the Harrier Aviator-A and the VA1 Matador for about £13 to £29, and Revell reboxed the Monogram kit of the Harrier GR1, the Aviator-A and the VA1 Matador for about £5 to £35. These kits aren't terrible, but they're not great. And then, of course, in 1/24 scale, Airfix released their super kit of the Harrier GR Mark 1 and the Aviator-A, and these kits retail for anything between £33 and £150. Yes, I have seen it going for £150 sold on eBay a few months ago. Conclusions. Bearing in mind this kit was released in 1969, it was one of the most accurate Harriers on the market for many years, with only the Frog Hasegawa kit coming close to it. It did have raised panel lines and a basic interior for sure, but the Airfix Harrier had something none of the others had. It had moving jet nozzles that were connected to move all together. Its overall shape is pretty good too, and the raised panel lines aren't that heavy, so they shouldn't really give much of an issue when building this model for any type of modelling or modeller, experienced or novice. It had a good ordnance loadout as well, with bombs, Metro Magic rocket pods and drop tanks, plus it had decals for the XV738, so what else could you want? Models worthy a note. The new Tool Airfix kits in 72nd scale are really nice, and also the 144 scale kits from Mark 1 are also a good option. The 48 scale kit from Tamiya and Kinetic, when it gets released, look to be the best of the bunch. And of course the Airfix Beast in 24 scale is a bit of a pig to put together, but very rewarding when finished. I hope this video inbox review has been of some use. If you have any questions, queries, any comments, just pop them in the comments slip underneath and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. I hope all your building projects are running very smooth. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, we are living in troubled times, and I hope that you're staying safe and get yourself hold of a kit and build it and have some fun. That's what it's all about. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye for now.